Project Shinra Express, Mark 93-2. The train is currently headed to Midgar Sector 8. A soldier operative will be inserted to neutralize the situation. We are to proceed as scheduled. Commence mission in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Begin mission. Operative is ready for insertion.
The train has been overrun by Wu-Tai troops. Eliminate them and regain control of the train.
Oh yeah! Get serious! Zach!
Zach, focus. There are no Shinra troops on this train. Understood?
Hello to you too! Come and get it! Soldier second class, Zach, on the job!
Train Mark 93-2 rerouted to Sector 1 station near Mako Reactor 1. Proceed to mission phase and change surveillance.
Zach speaking.
Making progress, Zach?
What's going on, Angeal? Why are we fighting Shinra troops?
They're Wu-Tai troops in disguise. Now, head to the open area above.
Towards Sector 8.
Yes, but first you have to clear a path.
Clear a path?
You'll see what I mean. Be careful.
So I can cut loose, right?
Use some discretion.
It's showtime.
Okay, hello everyone. I am your host for this randomised gaming video, Random Gamer Riven. I will say the volume of this game is incredibly loud, that I will say. So, this, as per 8-bit SNK Boys' request, is Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. I do wonder why they sort of added in the Final Fantasy VII tagline. I assume it's to make sure you just about knew it was the prequel to Final Fantasy VII. Well, I say prequel loosely as it's a sort of weird prequel story that doesn't really work that well. But hello, this is the Randomised Gaming Weekday stream. I, of course, am your host for this Randomised Gaming Weekday stream, Random Gamer Riven, and in today's game said we're doing Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. It was released in 2007. Well, in Japan, I think it was 2008, it got a Western release. And it was developed and published by Square Enix. And it's a prequel to, of course, the legendary well, turn-based RPG Final Fantasy VII. I say legendary. Final Fantasy VII, I think, was a popular game. It's not actually that good a game in terms of the FF series. It's not as good as some other installments of the franchise. And I'll just say hi to Cher. Thanks for joining the stream again, as always, Cher. Very much appreciated to see you coming back. So after that slightly, I'm going to be honest, that opening cutscene is quite terrible. Just going to slightly reduce my voice there a little bit. I think it was just cutting off a bit because it's a bit close to it today. But yes, it was very teenage angst, a lot of this stuff in Final Fantasy VII. It's just not that... Or Crisis Core. It's just not great. It's a weird departure from even the characters in FF7, almost as if this is what happens when your writer, who had previously, I think, been a minor player in the original game, is then suddenly one of the major players. And this is an interesting game. I briefly had a play on it earlier. It has an absolutely awful combat system. So we've got a weird live action system, similar in part to FF12, but once you start getting into combat, it then becomes turn-based, and you have to sort of let it... So it reminds me a bit of it does seem a bit like a simplistic FF12 system, just nowhere near as good.
Not too bad.
Piece of cake. I'll make first in no time.
Go up the stairs at the end of the platform.
You got it.
But yes, there's some weirdness. The flick phones don't seem really appropriate for the sort of sci-fi element. It does seem a bit like a product placement from the 2000s. The dialogue in this is just really weird with how Zack Axon sounds. It's all...
Activating combat mode.
I was just playing this bit earlier. It just reminds me of a game that a teenager would write who doesn't have any understanding of how to develop video games. It's a very odd combat system. I can basically run around. I can guard with triangle and I can dodge with X, but it's very slow. It feels like an unrefined version of the 12 combat, except you don't have the automated system. But yeah, some of the cuts. Hi, Naiko.
Conflict resolved.
We're going to have a lot of cutscenes early on, so...
Showing your back to the enemy. Overconfidence will destroy you.
What is this? Damn it. You're not the only hero.
It's over.
Impossible.
Thanks, Angel.
Training's over.
Why? You serious? I was just getting warmed up.
Zach. Embrace your dreams.
Huh?
If you want to be a hero, you need to have dreams. And honor.
Yeah, it does look like weird product placement, those flip phones. It just looks really weird and just seems against what the core design of Final Fantasy VII. There's a lot of... So you'll see there, it's all very teenage angsty. It just doesn't fit well with the environment they had in Final Fantasy VII. Zack himself's a bit of a bit part character in Final Fantasy VII, whose fate is left a bit unknown, but you suspect he's been killed. I mean, Seftov's kind of a bit of a weird villain, actually. Seftov he's quite often glamorized as a villain, but he's not a very good villain. He's actually one of the weakest Final Fantasy VII villains. He's supposed to be possessed by Jehovah as well in the actual original story, but the English plot was so badly originally translated, they didn't quite get it right. Hence why he's supposed to be acting strangely, as he's supposed to be possessed by Jehovah, the sort of alien creature. There are a lot of other mistakes, of course. Perhaps the most biggest one is the fact no one ever mentions the fact Eris is shown as to be alive at the end of FF7, because she's some sort of plant goddess, and there's some other weird plot points that just never got quite correctly implemented.
Hey, Zach, you seem a little on edge.
Can you blame me? All this training and no assignments, like they're hanging me out to dry. You must be pretty busy with everyone off base.
Off base? Wait, haven't you heard? There's been a mass desertion at Soldier.
Huh?
Yes, and that weird pass between cutscenes and text screens as well. It just feels very jumbled, this game. The look of Zack's an interesting one, because he does look... So, most... After FF7, there was a clear change in art direction in the Final Fantasy series. One that needs destroying completely, because every character started looking like porcelain dolls, and still to this day they look like porcelain dolls, and everything in this game has that same issue with that weird sort of porcelain doll look. You literally look like they're all just static dolls, because they've tried to go for realism and they end up with a weird, not uncanny valley realism, but almost a cartoonish realism that doesn't look right, doesn't look serious enough. It just looks weird. And the plot for this is just, again, it feels just like a side story they've conjured up without really thinking it through. So there are words that don't necessarily translate, but you can there was some weirdness in FF7. I actually knew one of the guys who was responsible for the translation of Final Fantasy VII, and basically it was just a giant mess because they had a few months to do it, and So yeah, I actually have a connection to the game. I actually know someone who actually worked on it. Basically said it was a giant mess, and they had made so many mistakes because they basically gave one of the guys the job to do it, and he said they just didn't have enough time, they didn't have enough resources, they had to put it all together in a hurry, and then they had a really limited time frame to hit a deadline. And he said they did it, but it wasn't particularly very good, and they took away all the mistakes they made, and then they subsequently rectified it for every future game. But he said they never rectified the mistakes they did on Final Fantasy VII, because at the time it was like their first time doing it. The mass desertion is the reason why your training is on hold. So basically we've got a mass desertion of Shinra troops, which isn't really covered in Final Fantasy VII. And as it's supposed to be a prequel game, you would have kind of thought you would have had Shinra rebels. And your mentor, he looks a bit... They tried to give him a gruff look, but they have this weird porcelain doll, slightly effeminate look as well with this. And just the actions, you have a lot of characters pausing to stare at one another in this, with a level of vanity that just doesn't work in an RPG storytelling. Actually, I didn't realise, this is the one who did Third Birthday. And when I looked him up, he was the writer for... one of the worst translators. He's basically the writer for all the worst FF7 games, FF games, FF7, FF8, FF10, FF10-2, FF13 and FF15. I thought, they're all the rubbish ones. 9 and 12, which are actually two of my more favourite ones, were not done by him. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. It got a retranslation. It hasn't had an official retranslation. Yeah, Nomaru. Yeah, when I looked him up, I thought, I didn't realise he's basically written a lot of all the bad storylines. So it's like, yeah, someone at Square should probably get some people in that can write coherent storytelling. Because when you compare the older Final Fantasies 4, 5, 6 to have a much more consistent feel with the story, as does 9. 12 is an interesting one. 12 has half a good story and then just sort of gets cut off and finished. But 12 was done by the guy who did Tactics Ogre, although even he has a habit of making convoluted stories. Noboru, from what I've seen, has a habit of not making likeable characters and sort of weird, trendy teenagers that don't quite work. Oh, is the PS4 version a new translation then? I thought the PS4 version was actually a... I thought the PS4 version used the original PS1 version translation, but I'm mistaken then. I know there was one fan translation that redid it fully, because they said one of the characters is supposed to have like a Welsh accent originally, and that was missing in the original English translation, but present in the original Japanese original version. The two online fantasies are Final Fantasy XI and Final Fantasy XIV, or as I like to call them, Final Fantasy Online and Final Fantasy XII. I dislike the fact they were renamed to be part of the number series.
Zach, it's good to finally meet face to face. Lazard, director of Soldier.
Hey,
On to business. Soldier First Class Genesis. A month ago, he went missing during a mission in Wutai. Know anything about this?
Not a clue.
The mission is currently stuck in limbo. That's why we've decided to send you.
To Wutai?
Yes. This war has gone on long enough.
I've recommended you for first.
And Jill! Oh, I love you, man! And Jill!
Don't make me regret this, Zach.
Sir.
Once you're packed, you'll leave at once.
Yeah, both the online Final Fantasies are up and running. I kind of hate the fact the online Final Fantasies were introduced into the number series. It's just, it partly has actually destroyed the number connotation. I think they need to rethink that and actually split FF11 into Final Fantasy Online and FF14 into Online 2. Yep, both are still fully playable on PC. They are very, very active. I think they're both on Steam. They've both got big followings, but you have to pay subscriptions. So they're some of the most expensive games to play out online. Hence why I never actually touched them. But you'll notice in that cutscene, the way Zack just runs up to Angeal, it just seems very childish in a way you wouldn't expect for someone who's a professional soldier, military type to... it's all written like a Japanese person who doesn't quite understand how military organisations work. Talk to other soldier operatives. So one thing I will say Square Enix did for a long time and still do go for graphics with their later games. It all started with I think the later FFs. Up till then, originally, they were not a graphics company. They were more just about writing them. They were originally not a graphics company when it came to video games, but after FF9 that seemed to change, and that's where the direction for the Final Fantasy series went badly wrong. FF9 is actually quite a good game, but Square Enix's pursuit of better graphics has resulted at the loss of good quality storytelling, which is what their games are always about, and that's ultimately why they've fallen down, I feel. So we can chat to the head of Soldier. I think this guy may have been in so only Zack appeared in FF7, and he only appeared in a flashback. It was always implied he was dead. But his fate was never seen. You just know that he was basically defeated by Sephiroth. I think the weird thing in FF7 that they never actually explained is the fact that Sephiroth can't get over the fact he was defeated by Cloud in the past. That he was defeated by a mere soldier, which is one of the key elements. There's an interesting thing about... There was quite clearly a story partly on mental health and a sort of shadowing forebodiness of the two main characters in FF7 that never really was properly brought to the fore. That was another massive hindsight. And it probably should have dealt with a lot of sort of the mind and things like that. But it never quite covered that. It always felt like it just wasn't quite right. So we've got huge tutorials. I'm not even going to bother reading any of them. I just hope for the best. Inbox. I have to read it. What was it good? You have a weird roulette reel system in this one, so it's a bit of an odd game. It really is its own beast. It wasn't sequeled, I don't think, and I suspect there were reasons for this. Technically, Final Fantasy VII actually has a prequel and two after events as well. You have, there's lots, so basically this is the prequel. You have Final Fantasy VII, you have Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerebot on the PS2, which was another sort of after story, and then you have Advent Children as well, which was a weird after story event. Again, they were all sort of adhering to the let's make Sephiroth the big bad villain, just keep making him the big bad villain, even though he was not. He was under control by Jovna, so therefore he shouldn't have actually been bad. He should have just been someone who was basically possessed and weak. So lots of Dirge of Cerebus. That's the one. I am surprised Square Enix didn't port a lot more of their PSP games to the PS2. So sassy to each other. Yeah, it's all... It's just hilariously bad the way all the characters are like, yeah, you, and yeah, me, and just like, I'm cool. They try to make themselves look cool when they're not. The way Zack lands in the opening intro, he's just trying to be like cool and hip, and it just all falls flat on its face. This guy's supposed to be a military soldier working with soldiers who are supposedly being conducted experiments on. How is this? It just strikes me as just baffling. That might be why this didn't get a sequel or anything, or any sort of follow-up game. Yeah, the Prinnies did. The Prinnies actually, the writing in Prinnie is really, really good. Yeah, NCI Nippon Ichi Software, who do Prinnie, are supposedly not a top tier developer, unlike Square Enix. I mean, oddly enough, Final Fantasy VIII has a similar problem where Squirrel, the main character, is just so unlikable. He is... Squirrel in FF7 is one of the worst characters in vid... Yeah, that's pretty grim, the fact they say this is the most well-received out of them. Arguably, I don't think this should have been that well-received. It just doesn't seem like... select... So, I'm supposed to go to the mission terminal? Oh, you press... So, X brings up the save menu. So, you... So you're supposed to press triangle. Why isn't that shown there? Okay, share, no worries. Oh, I have to put it. Oh, gotcha. Which character did he give his likeness to then? Did he give it to Zack? Probably a good thing I didn't monetize this video then, so I had a feeling I wouldn't monetize this one because this was Square Enix, and I know they're pretty hot on their game, so I thought I would just leave this running as it is, just to Shinra's basic training. So we've got a basic training mission. Yeah, because they would need his rights, or they'd need to redo the cutscenes. If I was in charge of Square Enix, I'd have them redo the cutscenes and take out the actor if he gives you right problems. Obtained one elixir. And there's the classic FF battle music. Yeah, Square Enix do tend to be quite hot on their games, so I just thought I'd leave it. I did see a few seemed to have ads rolling on them, but I thought I would check that wasn't because Square Enix do video stuff. So there are videos of this, but in fact, there's quite a lot of videos on Crisis Core, but yeah, I just thought I'd be safe than sorry. Also got a bronze bangle. It's just interesting to see the quality of this, because for such a big follow-up, this does seem... Originally, you couldn't actually stream on YouTube if you had even a single content ID would shut down the stream. Which I think they had to change. So they're building mid-gear. That doesn't make sense in the timeline. You expect mid-gear to take decades to complete. Why would this implying... this timeline does not make sense in the slightest. I doubt we'll actually get to see any of the villains in this. We'll probably just be doing the opening missions in this stream. Can I equip the bangle equipment? I mean, it's nice you've got all the sort of usual FF sound effects, but this does feel a bit... Shinra building shop. Oh, actually, you can actually buy from the menu. I must admit, the shadows aren't very good. They're just almost like stuff you'd see on the PS1 Saturn. They're not... They're just like dark shades. And the other... Oh, they had some of the other characters do. I'm all set. So I'm guessing we're probably going to get another cutscene now.
I'll be joining you as well. I'm counting on you.
Sir!
By the way, what is your dream? To become first? Is it?
No. To become a hero.
Ah, good. Unattainable dreams are the best kind.
Thanks.
Let's hurry, B unit is standing by. You two identify yourselves. Hey, Share, back in. Hey, are you nearly finished doing that? That'd be interesting to watch, actually, Nike, because I'm interested to see. There's probably a few things even I can learn about doing the using the open source scan converter in the PSP. Although I think the one issue I think I've got is I think it's the fact I'm using the H60 Pro and probably the older firmware, so we can't do a few of the older resolutions. Because I can't update because I'm on Windows 7 on this PC, and unless I do up Windows 10 I can't update the firmware for it. I got to the final Windows 7 revision and then left the drivers there. Supposedly the later firmware doesn't support it. It might do if I installed it, but it could bring up a whole host of problems that at this point I'd rather not deal with. So you kind of think, yeah, it's a weird, the dialogue and the way he says, oh, unobtainable dreams. It's just like, the dialogue in this is just cringeworthy. So I use the Elgato capture unit to record games on console. I use Open Broadcast Studio, which is the old version, to capture games on PC because I find that's a bit more stable. Open Broadcast software I use for capturing PC stuff. I find that's a bit more stable. Capturing full screen, I actually find that much better than Open Broadcast Studio, the newer one. The only thing I use Open Broadcast Studio for at present is for live streaming, but it is very unstable because the Elgato I've noticed software, like the version I've got, does not like resolution changes on certain hardware. I think because some change too quickly, and if it changes too fast it gets stuck at what it's trying to do and then just crashes, and I had a few times where Open Broadcast Studio just crashed on me. Yeah, HD60 Plus only function. Yeah, a lot of the newer stuff. I'd quite like the 4K one, but I'd need to upgrade to, we'd need to look at getting a Windows 10 unit. That will eventually happen, and we will probably go fully to 4K. This would have probably been done around the same time, I think, as Kingdom Hearts 2, so... Unbelievable. How can you not know about dumb apples? What? What a line! What even an item for a name? That was like it crashed there. You'll never make first at this rate. This is terrible. Whoa, wait! I mean... What are dumb apples? What? Yeah, the Elgato software is bad. I'm going to say it's not great. The hardware they make is really, really good, but the software isn't that great. What is dumb? Just the... Yeah, I mean, I really like the hardware I'll get to do, but the software... But they're... Okay, so the other guys just run off even though he's supposed to be with us. But yeah, I mean, the Elgato software is just not good.
Oh yeah! Conflict resolved.
I don't know, this is only 2 years off Kingdom Hearts 2, so it's roughly about the same time. You might even find this was in the planning stages when they were finishing off Kingdom Hearts 2. Because this is late 2000. Okay, and we've got frequent random battles. The dodges. Oh, I suppose the dodge. You can dodge them just before they initiate their... attack.
Oh yeah. Conflict resolved.
Oh, Dazzler. Yeah, I'm not used. Can't say any used any Dazzler stuff to capture. Was it any good, Share, or was it? I mean, these days I would recommend an open source scan converter. I mean, it's not perfect for PlayStation 2, but it's pretty good. Or even one of the old sort of, I don't know if you can get them too much now, the sort of cheaper discount scalers that were basically what you'd get inside LG TVs. Basically, they were interpollinated scalers, so they're actually quite good for PS2 stuff, although they do make it a bit dark. But they do have some advantages. There are a few things I still use that for capturing. As always, guys, if you enjoyed the stream, please do hit that like button.
What's the deal with dumb apples?
The official name is Binaural White. The trees bear fruit at random times during the year. Because of that, the townspeople affectionately call them dumb apples. The local farms had plenty of them to spare.
Oh, really? So you stole them?
We were poor, Zach.
Nice excuse.
But even then, I had my honor. The largest binaural white tree grew on a wealthy man's estate. It was rumored that those apples tasted the best. But I never stole from that tree, because the wealthy man's son was my friend.
If he was a friend, you should have just asked for some.
Honor can be quite a burden at times.
And what exactly does this have to do with me?
No story is not worth hearing.
What? That's it? Yeah, well, thanks a lot.
The other issue with those, these characters look almost identical to the characters from Final Fantasy 15. They have that weird, strange boy band look, where they all have the jacket. I mean, someone should have actually gone in and said to the guys, "Hey guys, we've got 4 characters that are all male in Final Fantasy 15. I think we need someone non-human and probably at least 1 or 2 ladies in the cast." It just seems weird the fact you didn't have a single female playable character in Final Fantasy 15. A huge design oversight. Considering the fact pretty much every Final Fantasy up till 15 had at least pretty much 1 female lead. I think the original, I think you had preset characters. The second game had a female character. The third one did. Fourth one had quite a few. The fifth one had, fifth one's well known for having almost an entirely female squad, except Bart's at the end, so he gets to. In fact, Bart's is probably one of the happiest of all the Final Fantasy heroes, as he gets to relax with 3 lovely ladies every night in the Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy VI had a female lead, but you also had a lot of other great male characters and mix. But Final Fantasy 15 is just a bit of a weird mix one. Although I do need to sit down and actually spend time with that one, as I've not played it. Yeah, I've not used any Dazzle software. I basically thought I'd go with the Elgato when we were setting up randomized gaming, because I thought this one looked pretty. It was interesting because there were a few competitors. I did look at Avid stuff, but I thought I would go with Elgato. Yeah, you're right there, Nico. These are all an extension of this basically the Kingdom Hearts characters pulled through to all the other versions. Yeah, I would agree. although these characters look like the guys in F15, they in turn all look like the guys from Kingdom Hearts. There is this, and they all have this weird porcelain doll look. They just haven't evolved their characters. A lot of their games used to, on the SNES, have very different looks. And the Final Fantasy series used to have quite a sort of a weird sort of minified look, which you could still do. In fact, Octatails on the Switch does that very well. The Nintendo Switch. I must admit, when I originally, so this is actually my personal copy of Crisis Core, I played this for about 10 minutes and I think I just thought this is a bit pants and just put on something else.
The unit will set off an explosion. That's our cue.
The diversion will allow us to infiltrate.
Right.
Stating the obvious there, Captain.
I'll set the bomb inside the fortress. You'll charge the front gate and...
Uh-huh. And?
Indulge yourself.
You got it. That's what I do best. Come on, B-Unit. You know, I've never actually seen you use that. Don't you think it's sort of a waste?
Use brings about wear, tear, and rust. And that's a real waste.
You're serious, aren't you?
Yeah. I can be pretty cheap.
Yeah, no kidding.
Another laugh-a-minute dialogue there. Octopath, yeah, that's the right one. Yes, so there we have another. I mean, the dialogue is terrible, but the character, I don't use my weapon because it'll rust. Well, you're supposed to be a soldier. You're going to be using your weapons. It doesn't make any sense. This is just bad, fan. Oh, dear. Yeah, I think Elgato was the right choice at the time. I don't know if there's better stuff now, though. I mean, it's HD 60 Pro. I think it's still available, but it's definitely getting old. But we originally had the Elgato Game Capture, which is the only one that you could use for direct console capture, which was a really nice thing. But these days, that's long since been basically disregarded now. And I think they've sort of retired the firmware in about 2017 for it. So. But it's still quite a handy unit to have, the older one. But yeah, the dialogue in this.
Activating combat mode.
Supposedly this sold 3 million copies. I'm guessing that was probably purely on the FF7 name. I think I basically keep going. You can get this. There's the weird slot machine that when you get it right, you'll get a super attack.
Later.
It's still actually a really good... Hi Will Kato, glad to join the stream. Glad you played this before. Okay, I'm guessing fire magic. Yeah, you probably need to use the older firmware, I imagine, and the older drivers for it to work now, sadly. I'm not even sure the new Elgato software would accept it.
Activating combat mode.
So while I'm not overly impressed with the story in this, I will say visually it's very, very good for a PSP game, and the music is very good. Animation is very high quality as well. It's one of the things that Square Enix has said they've really concentrated on the graphics in this area, and I think that's slightly been a detriment to storytelling in their later games. Piece of cake! I could have done it blindfolded! Don't get too careless. I've heard the Wu-Tai keep a large monster for If I took it out, do you think I'll make first? So you're in a mission and you're chatting about when your next rank promotion is. You'll be like... And they so look like they're talking in 2000 mobile phone. You're spoiling it for us, Will. I've not actually played that before, but it's kind of obvious, sadly, everyone's going to get bumped off in this, because it was always implied Zack was dead in Final Fantasy VII, so... And when they did this type of prequel game, that's ultimately the only thing they can do, because none of the characters were in, unless you either had the characters... Okay, so Fortress Remnants. It's definitely a very good looking PSP game. The visual animation is superb, which are part of the course for Square Enix games.
Conflict resolved.
Oh, we've got a map. I'm just going to get some water, guys, and then I'll be back. Yeah, although... Okay, back. Just having a quick drink of water. When you're streaming, it's always a good idea to actually have a glass of water or something to drink, just to keep yourself refreshed. And for keeping your voice falling over. Interestingly, Zack and Eris, I don't think had much of a storyline originally. I know she's in this one, and Eris's plotline in FF7 is interesting, because although everyone says, oh, Eris got killed, but if you watch the ending, she's technically alive, and it implies she's some sort of plant creature. There was something about her and her mother that were implied to be... In fact, you never found out what happened to her mother either. It didn't really... I can't remember if it sort of tried to make mention they were captured by Shinra and sort of experimented on, but there seemed to be some implied there were other forces at work in Final Fantasy VII that never materialised.
Activating combat mode.
Got him. Oh yeah.
Conflict resolved.
So I need to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more battles. Shinra building shop, okay. I had to actually go in the menu there because he seemed stuck at that point. I should probably actually do cure for once.
Conflict resolved.
I can't remember if the Wu Tai troops were actually mentioned in Final Fantasy VII. Or whether they're exclusively in this. It has been a long time since I played FF7, so...
Activating combat mode.
There are some elements I can't quite remember.
Conflict resolved.
How much of this... I know a lot of this story I don't think directly... They sort of kind of... Because you're retroactively writing a story, it's not going to... fully linked in, but yeah, it's
Activating combat mode.
yeah, that sounds similar to I know with the old the current Elgato, I've got to the point where if there's too many resolution changes and certain consoles it doesn't like the resolution changes and the way they change, it will crash the actual drivers for the Elgato.
Activating combat mode.
I haven't yet managed to get the super attack come out. I did when I was playing this earlier. I did a brief stream at the start and managed to get it to come out at the Behemoth boss.
Conflict resolved.
I've got 4 more fights left. Yeah, when you get to about 40 minutes anyway, I know when you get to videos that long, I know with the GameCube HDMI device we did, I got to the point where I felt I had to finish the video there, even though I still think I wanted to say it was just taking too long to show everything.
Activating combat mode. Modulating phase.
Okay, here we go. Modulating.
Later. Hi. Later.
Conflict resolved.
Definitely Aerith in that one, wasn't there? I assume Cloud also appears and Tiffany. But just grab the manual. Where is it? It's over there. I am actually playing my copy I picked up many moons ago for about 5 or 10 quid second hand. I just never actually played it that much. I literally put it on for like 10 minutes, moved on to something else. And this is the furthest I've actually ever got into the game. As always, guys, if you do enjoy the stream, please do hit that like button just to see who the characters are. Who have we got in this? So, Sephiroth, Angle, Genesis, Aerith. Yep, a girl loves flowers. Oh, Tiff. There's no mention of Cloud or Tiffany this point. You know they're going to be in there. Adverts for Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 2, and Valkyrie profile Lenneth in the manual as well. I'm just going to be skimming through. Yeah, I didn't buy the LE version at the time, and these days that goes for about 70 odd quid. I noticed at the minute. So, despite the fact the only difference with the LE version is you get an outer cardboard sleeve and an art book. It's like eBay prices can be a bit... Oh, no, I didn't want to do that. I want the map. I've got brought up the map before. Yeah, that's what I tend to do, because I'm quite bad for sometimes repeating myself in a few videos and perhaps not being concise as I should be. I'll find a different route.
Activating combat mode. Modulating phase.
Oh, we're getting Sephiroth. Nope, I think that's Cloud.
Yeah. Take that. Oh yeah.
Conflict resolved.
Ah, square is the map. Okay, so supposedly I might be able to get across there from there. No, find a different route for now. I'm just going to go through here. Let's see, is there another way? According to that, the only way is going to be there. Okay, we've got hidden walls. Okay, that's quite nice. You've got different ways to tackle the problem. Just wondering, was Yuffie Wu Tai? I get 3 items for doing it that way.
Activating combat mode. Conflict resolved.
One thing I will say, it does get into the combat pretty quickly, so it's not like it's a sluggish, like some sort of RPG or action titles that take forever. Because there are some titles that, one of the reasons we haven't videoed them is because I know the first 40 or so minutes of the game would just be bland cutscenes before you actually get into any gameplay. So then you've got to do select gameplay, where you do like a section of them. As always, guys, if you're enjoying the video, please do smash that like button. Oh, thanks to the 5 of you who already hit the like button, very much appreciated. Also got a few Final Fantasy fans. I know we haven't cut. This is actually the first Final Fantasy game I've covered on the channel. Well, that's definitely not. I will admit this is not turning out to be my favourite.
Activating combat mode.
I think my favourites are 4, 5, and 6. I also am a big fan of 9 and 12. When it comes to theory. I should in theory be a fan of Tactics, but I don't think Final Fantasy Tactics is that great, as it's just sort of a, what I'd describe as an unofficial sequel to Tactics Ogre with an overly complex plot that doesn't really work too well. Okay, that's saying save point followed by boss, so oh, you can zoom in as well. It's quite nice. Because it's going to be a save point followed by boss. But visually, this is a very, very good looking game on the PSP.
Conflict resolved.
With Persona 3, you press X for about 2 hours. Yeah, there are a few games like that where that's the RPG examine. Was that a good thing? Was that a big mistake? Or is that... Ah, the moral debate. Okay, this feels like a really inappropriate time to have a moral debate. Will you do anything? Yeah. I do recall actually playing the start of Persona 3 and not getting to any battles.
Activating combat mode. Modulating phase. Power surge.
Prove your honor to me.
I got it.
Okay, that super came at just the right time.
Conflict resolved.
Why do you not finish me? Yeah, I've got both. I've got the PSP version. I've now got. I've also got the FPS and the original version. But I think if we're going to play through it now, I'll just do the FES version, or maybe the PSP version on the go. RPGs are great for when you're on holiday. That I will say. What's the mail we've got? Yeah, a lot of people said the PSP version's better in terms of combat. However, the PSP version is lacking the additional FES chapter, which is the problem. So you don't get the additional content from the FES version, and that's over 30 hours worth of content, supposedly. Hi, 8-Bit SNK boy, thanks for joining the stream. We are doing Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, as you asked. I'm interested to see what it's like myself, and it's an interesting game. It's not bad. I mean, we've had some hilarious dialogue moments. Yeah, Cher mentioned she was drinking hot cocoa. I don't know if she's still in the stream at the minute, but hopefully she is. Or hot chocolate. Right, equipment, items, so I'm a bit... Okay, nice. You're someone who obviously likes to watch more than chat, which is cool. Although I tend to be someone who watches more than I chat, so... Okay, thanks, Essing Gable. You rushed time. Okay, I know we should just said I'd do Crisis Core. Oh, it is Yuffie. Oh, it is Yuffie's people. Okay, this feels a bit weird having Yuffie in this. Persona 3 FES. That is the expanded edition of Persona 3 on the PS2. So are all the characters from FF7 going to cameo in this? In like some weird way. Although Yuffie's relatively young. She looks like... Again with the slightly awkward cutscenes. Just what is going on in that cutscene? Is that Yuffie's only cameo? I think this is actually the place you see in FF7 where you meet her, where you meet her people. Because I remember they said they were. Well, is that Yuffie's quick? This is character from FF7. We'll give her a quick cameo, kind of fan. That looks to me like it's kind of a fan moment. I have to be honest, I really hate fan moments. Kid. Yeah, well that's Yuffie, one of the secret playable characters from Final Fantasy VII. So she's one of the characters from FF7. So nothing's going to happen to her in this because of course she's in Final Fantasy. No, this is a much better translation. I think this is one of those games that literally... This is... Because this is a much later translation. This is when they actually had good translation. Because the script's clearly a solid translation. But this is just... This is... Well, Numaru's... I can't quite pronounce his name. Writing. One of the guys who... And this is just a weird game in places. Okay, finally, boss time.
Activating combat mode.
This looks like this might be one of those unwinnable battles, but...
Launch A phase.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. Like you say, the Final Fantasy 4, 5, 6 are really good. Well, you can guard, and I can evade. Okay, there's the modulating phrase. This is where I want the break attack. What am I going to get? Sephiroth, Lucky 7, level up. I mean, Final Fantasy VII, even the you did get the silliness in the odd place, but the start is quite a serious thing where you're blowing up the reactor, and it feels like you're a mercenary. This just doesn't have the suspense that Final Fantasy VII does. That opening sequence in Final Fantasy VII where you're blowing up the reactor is much welly done. The mobile phones just, they're really bugging me. You almost want like military earpieces where they're just sort of some sort of earpiece. It's just it feels like they're like, hey, we're hip trendy kids from the 2000s.
Director Lazard, are you watching? Gotta move. No time to play.
Yeah, you're right there. Power Rangers, yes, definitely. So we have a third monster that we don't even fight. Oh, is this where Angle jumps in and saves us?
Not good.
Yep, this is where Angle jumps in and saves us. Yeah, you could see that.
That's one more you owe me.
Occurring a mile off.
You lost your focus.
Yeah. Oh, sorry if your sword got any wear, tear, or rust on it.
You're a little more important than my sword. But just a little.
God, that's terrible. That's a terrible line.
Thanks.
God, the dialogue in this is hilarious. I can't believe this is supposed to be serious in places. Yeah, there's lots of awkward stares, isn't there? As I said earlier, they have that awkward, like, they look at the camera like they're all posing and smiling and just all very weird porcelain, and that whole porcelain doll look of all the characters. It just feels awkward in places. Yeah, I think you said it there. Naiko. Again, that's kind of at odds with the original game because Seftov was basically... Zeke was actually the commander. Zach was, I think, was the commander of the unit when they had Sephiroth or Seth. I call him Seftov, but I think it's Sephiroth, isn't it?
Conflict resolved.
Zach, come on! You'd thought the director would have a weapon if he's in the field. Yeah, I still actually have an old mobile phone. I've never actually upgraded to. Oh, here we go, the Shinra soldiers. With the classic sort of three-eyed helmets. I can't recall if he's a character from FF7, Lazarus. I think he might be. And he's got an elite member of soldier with him, and then all of a sudden he's like, actually, I'll just go with these standard normal guys. Ah, now I recognise that line. This is definitely, I think, the FF12 game engine. Obviously an early version of it. Or they at least used the system for FF12. So I don't really need to heal. I'm at roughly full health. I'm at roughly full measure. I'm coming angle.
And Jill! And Jill! What? These guys aren't Wu-Tai troops.
Angeal, I should say. Well, they pronounce it Angeal, but... Yeah, I still tend to rely more on a landline than a mobile, so...
A summon! Who called it out?
Okay, now we're talking Final Fantasy music.
Prove your honor to me. I got it.
Okay, so weird cutscenes in battle.
Concentrate. I'm feeling it.
Modulating phase. Power surge.
Here we go. Go, go, go.
Conflict resolved.
Hugh Sephiroth. Sephiroth.
Holy.
This is gonna be a weird, like, fanboy scenario.
Genesis.
The missing soldier first class? They're identical.
A Genesis copy.
Copy? A human copy?
Where's Angeal?
I thought he was fighting around here.
So he's gone too.
What? Wait, what does that mean?
It means Angeal has betrayed us as well.
No way! I know what kind of guy Angeal is, and he'd never do that. Angeal wouldn't betray us. Never!
Oh, is this referencing, you know, that story about the rich kid? Is Angeal's rich kid friend from his village, the Genesis guy? Can we see the plot running? Can we see the plot line dialogue a mile off? The rich kid he mentioned who owned the tree that he never stole the fruits from the tree.
Soldier second class. Zach?
That would be me. Who is this?
Director Lazard wants to see you. Go to the briefing room.
Hey, wait! Who was that?
I'm not actually a big fan of smartphones. I think they're really expensive for what they are. And having used them back in... we used them back in about 2010 as a tester. And I just hated them because I've worked on smartphone software. I just thought... It just felt like it was more as a gimmick. Initially, I thought when they first came out...
Any word on Angeal?
He hasn't contacted his family either.
So what's this about?
A new assignment. I want you to go to the hometown of our missing soldier first class, Genesis.
Huh?
According to the parents, they've had no contact with Genesis whatsoever. But they can't be trusted.
Why?
They're his family. I had already dispatched some staff, but we've lost contact. I want you to go and investigate. He will go with you.
Son of the Turks.
This job is looking really gloomy.
Let me know when you're ready to go.
I think we've got lots of cameos from FF7 characters. Tend to... Yeah, the problem with the smartphones is the technology for motion controls is just light years behind where we need it to be. Hello. I must admit, they're not making Zack a very likeable character in this. They're making him a bit of a... almost like a comedic lead. Which just doesn't feel right for how the story of FF7 went, so... it's far from ideal, I will admit. We're glad to see everyone's liking the video, very much appreciated. I did wonder if the minute of mention of Final Fantasy might get quite a few people on stream. We had the Sonic R stream as well that did really well. Sadly, Sonic R is only about an hour and a half. I finished that game on stream. Yeah. Nubaru's writing. When I realised all the fun, when I looked at his credits and realised all the games he's done, I thought, actually, this guy's not a good writer. He's got a long way to go. And he's the director on a lot of these games now, and I think that's the problem, is you sometimes get people who want to go up the ladders, but not necessarily got the capabilities to go up. There is an old adage about you rise to the level of your incompetence. So we've got to check the supply pods before we go on the next mission. I mean, what you said earlier about a game that you want to skip the cutscenes, I agree. The action sections are very good. The story is definitely one you need to switch ahead. Even if you were to actually rewrite Final Fantasy VII with this included and all the bits that come after and some various changes, I must admit I always thought I never thought Sephiroth was a good villain. I actually felt there should have been another character. I know supposedly it's Jevna, the sort of alien creature at the end, but I think there should have been another villain at hand in Final Fantasy VII. It always felt like there needed to be another villain that never materialised. That's quite interesting. You can actually got see-through. At least I think that's see-through. Or it's a very good effect. Yeah, it is. It's just... Well, I think he did the story for 7, but I think on Final Fantasy VII he was relatively minor. He was quite heavily constrained, so he would have been he was also under the direction of the father of Final Fantasy, and whose name escapes me. I think it's something like Hitachi Takamochi, who did Blue Dragon and who did all the Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3. He did Final Fantasy 1 up to 9. He did Chrono Trigger. He did Blue Dragon. He's just one of the best RPG creators out there. It was interesting from my own industry experience.
Ready to go?
A routine job, right? No sweat.
I wonder. Originally, Sephiroth was assigned to this mission. That means it's a top priority matter. Be alert, or you'll fail.
And Sephiroth?
Refusing to go, apparently.
Oh, what is that? They spoil him too much.
Why don't you say that to his face?
No thanks.
Again, we have another almost comedic scene that looks like this is a kid's thing. With the, oh, no thanks. It's just like, you've got, these guys are military soldiers. I mean, this goes against the character Zack you see in the original game. Yes, there's another very predictable plot twist.
Activating combat mode.
Or it's not even a plot twist, it's like a really bad... The way they're introducing this stuff. The other thing is, if Angel was going to leave you, so you did the tutorial mission, you did the first mission, he should have left you on the second mission. So that way you at least have some attachment. Because he's left so early, we don't really have much attachment to him. We've just had him in a couple of cutscenes stare at you, beat down a couple of mons, beat down a CG Sephiroth, and strike down another monster, make some claim about complaining about his sword getting rusty, and then... Leave it to me. Another point is, if Angle was... You knew Angle and Genesis were friends, and the minute one of them disappeared and you think they may have taken all the desertion, you would have grabbed the other guy and interrogated him to see who his loyalties lie. If anything, the second mission, they should have captured Angle, and basically you have to make the... Thank you, Cher, yeah. You want a far more... God, the writing in this, I mean... So assuming you take the existing plotline, yeah, you'd want Angle to probably be captured at the start, basically taken away at the end of the first mission, taken away, being interrogated. You then have the moral choice of helping him, or basically going to his hometown, and they're questioning your loyalties as well, being that you've trained under him for so long. It just makes better sense progressively, and then you begin doing all the twists and the turns. At least 3 minutes into the story, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. There's just no attachment. Some of the laughable dialogue doesn't help. You need a character to leave who's been for you for quite a few missions.
Combat mode.
Or certainly at least you need to question the motives of the organisation you're working for. So basically if you saw him being captured and interrogated, you would then start to question some of the stuff going on. You say, well, was that what we did in Wu-Tan? Right. But because you're not doing that, you're not giving them the questioning. Instead, you had that weird moral moment that just didn't make any sense in Wu-Tan. Random emails in Mission as well. Yeah, this... I mean, the gameplay is really... It's actually quite good now. I'm beginning to get...
Activating combat mode.
So you've got the evade. I mean, the roulette thing, perhaps... This random roulette wheel I'm not a keen fan of. It just seems a bit awkward. You notice Angeal in this roulette wheel has quite a sinister sort of smile.
Oh yeah. Conflict resolved.
Attempt at character building, yeah. Yeah, we don't really have much of a reason to invest in Angeal. He's just because he's helped us the once, and he's sort of made some corny dialogue. In fact, he sort of disappeared for a bit as well. It just feels awkward.
Conflict resolved.
There's not really much premise and back building. I think it's because, oh hey, this is it. We're not that. Okay, there's some sort of walker up there. The music's very good. It's pretty cheap to buy, actually. This is not an expensive game at all, Crisis Core. The only time it is expensive is if you want the limited edition version. Cue a boss fight. Cue the obligatory slicing a bullet in half scene, as so many things have done.
Activating combat mode.
Yeah, the only one was expensive was the limited edition version, which came literally, it's the same game, but with a cardboard outer sleeve and an art book. For some reason that was going for silly money, despite the fact there were still loads of that on eBay. So I was like, oh, it's one of those eBay seller things where people are paying silly money for it. So you can't evade around the target. The actual movement around is not... Also dodge. I did get thunder. I probably should have equipped that. Oh yeah, it's definitely worth £2. The lockdown anyway, yeah. I've not bought anything in quite a long time, except for some digital stuff. Just to warn you guys, they have now pulled the PSP, PS3 and PS Vita web store totally now. So the only way to buy PS3 games is via the PS3, same with Vita. But the problem is the PSP store has been shut down for a long time. So you have to buy them either via the PS3 or the PS Vita store. Yeah, it's got a nice full colour manual, so definitely make sure it's got the manual if you can do. Although these, towards the end of... I think every PSP game had a manual, but certainly there are some PS3 games that didn't have manuals, sadly. We went from like the last full colour manuals to no manuals whatsoever.
A Genesis copy.
Where did you hear that?
Sephiroth said it.
The technology was stolen from our scientists.
Huh?
It apparently allows Genesis's abilities and traits to be transplanted to soldier members and monsters.
Soldier and monsters, we're the same?
So I will say the music music is definitely very good and the gameplay's solid, but I'm probably going to wrap up in a few minutes. But yeah, it's a solid game, but as I said, the story is just... Equip Thunder, yes, you're right. Thank you for reminding me, Naiko. Equipment. We're a slightly odd level up system. Can I sort them? Because I really want equipment, so... Let's swap. So I really want to get Cure... Blizzard. Ah, yes, thank you. I didn't notice that. I was too busy looking at the equipment. I didn't notice the sort option, so sort so that. Yep. Cure. I'll put Cure there, Thunder and Blizzard. What can I swap out? I've also got Hit Up, increase HP. Increase defense against and Assault Twister. Oh, does that increase my stats? It'd be nice to know how much it actually heals. It'd be nice to know what the damage is. Is there stats, abilities? Should we try what the bet? Let's see what best does. Is that going to auto-equip defensive? So magic. Yeah, because in the very start you have you actually had 6 abilities. Yeah, the story really is not. It's just not there. It just seems weird the way the characters are interacting. Sort of what is this described as quite a tough dystopian world. Betray. Oh, this chapter's called Betrayal. Do I have to talk to Tengu at this point? Wow, that's a long screen load. We've got another cutscene.
This is Genesis's home. His parents are wealthy landowners.
But I never stole from that tree, because the wealthy man's son was my friend.
They weren't mere acquaintances. They grew up together and were best friends.
So Genesis deserts and gets his best friend Angeal to join him. Is that it?
Sephiroth believes that's the case. There. A gravestone, still very new. Zack, go find Angeal's house. I'll check the grave.
Ugh. So Turks always do this stuff.
Someone has to do it.
Must be rough.
Don't worry. We're paid much better than you are.
No way!
Yeah, as we were saying earlier, it uses that sort of weird porcelain doll look. I suppose Final Fantasy VIII was actually the first one that did it, although we were saying about Kingdom Hearts. Final Fantasy VIII was probably the originator of that weird porcelain doll look. Because that did beat Kingdom Hearts Final Fantasy VIII. That was the one that started it, and then it sort of permeated it. And even Final Fantasy 15, as we were saying, had it something similar. But yeah, it would be FF8 was definitely the first to use. Just looks weird because even like the FF6 remake had it. So yeah, the no way! I gotta do this. Big high-tech home, yeah, just...
Activating combat mode.
The other fact is, if Genesis clones are supposed to have all these tactical abilities, then these clones should absolutely, basically, whoop you the very first time you fight them.
Conflict resolved.
The plot just makes no sense. It's just full of plot holes. Sorry, that was where we came from. Cherish has spoken to Tengu before he moved to this location. Yeah, I mean, the combat-wise, it's quite good fun. And if you forget the plot, the game's actually quite a nice little solid little action-packed title with a sort of free roam tactical. But the music's very good as well, and visually it's very good for a PSP. This area is really short because obviously they've... I have no idea. Again, it's just the silliness. Okay, they were saying I need to check every house one by one. It's just some sort of weird teenage, like he's having a argument with his parents. I'm not doing that, Mom. I'm not doing that. It's... Yeah, I think they based something. I think this may have been the core for FF12 as well. Did that say there was something there when I checked it?
Activating combat mode.
Take that!
Modulating phase.
This slot machine does get a little bit annoying at times.
Take that!
Conflict resolved.
So you just had a beast run out of the door and yet you're saying it's now locked. Just some modifications, yeah. So this may have been based on the... In fact, FF10 was before this, so you might find this is also using a version of that PS2 engine was sort of modded down to PSP.
Modulating phase. Power surge.
prove your honor to me. I got it.
I mean, these attacks are really visually impressive. I wonder if they even referenced the story of this in the recent Final Fantasy VII remake. Yeah, literally. So we just go into the one house, the other one's literally getting the cat. Yeah, they said the cat. Or we're just gonna sit down and have a cup of tea with like his parents.
Can I help you?
Greetings, ma'am. Are you Angeal's mother? My name is Zach.
Are you Zach, the puppy?
Excuse me?
My son wrote to me once about you. 0 attention span, restless as a little puppy.
Oh, thanks, Angeal.
You're not here together with Genesis, are you?
No, I'm not. Don't worry.
What is happening with my son?
I'm not really sure.
Genesis came back here a month ago with an army of cohorts. And they proceeded to take the lives of many townspeople. Genesis, he used to be such a good boy.
Is Angeal...
He came here, but he left his sword and went off somewhere. That sword represents our family's honor.
I see. No wonder. He never uses this sword, really, ever. I'll take care of Angeal. You should go and hide somewhere.
Don't be concerned. Genesis cannot harm me.
Okay, I'll just say night to Naika. Apologies I wasn't able to say there just for just letting the cutscene play out, but thanks for being on the stream, Naika. Very much appreciated. And what on earth? This is hilariously bad. I just was holding my tongue in at that last cutscene. I was like, switch off the sound. That was just comical with the delivery, and like you're just wandering. So the other houses have got animals running amok in, monsters, and there's Angeal's mother just sitting here quietly, just happily passing the time. Angeal's just left his sword there. I was assuming it's because Angeal was perhaps going after Genesis, but... So we have some weird plotline. His dad passed away. Angeal, my husband, had that sword made for him. I hoped he'd become an honourable warrior. We had to borrow a lot of money to have it made, and then trying to return all the money, my husband succumbed to fatigue. That's so terribly written. You'd want something more along the lines of my husband. That was my husband worked tirelessly to be able to afford a sword for Angeal to take in as a congratulations present for when he joined Shinra. Sadly, he worked so hard, he basically passed away not long after that. But yeah, the writing, it just needs a bit more. It needs more. There's an element of a story here, but it's. Made never purposely tried to return all the money. My husband succumbed to fatigue. Succumbed? You do. You wanted to say something like, my husband passed away. We got this present for us. It'd probably be better was this sword was a present my husband worked so hard to bring. Sadly, he passed away shortly after presenting it to Angeal. And that would kind of imply why he might not use it, because it's a gift from his father. So, you needed to mention that originally when Angeal says, I rarely use this sword, it was the last thing my father gave me, to give you a more dramatic, oh, so that's a gift from his father, that's why he rarely uses it. That way when he does use it in that opening scene, you think, well, he's used his father's sword, and he's obviously done that. So that's how you write good story. But the actual dialogue, the way it is, and why is she just sitting here? Yeah, something along that line, SNK boy. Pay for the record there, yeah. That you basically want, yeah. It's like, but you want to make it clear that it was like the last thing his father gave him. So, but already there, he said you have a conflicting dialogue, because the picture said, "Oh, there's Angeal with the sword," implying that was sometime later and his dad. So there's already a conflicting plot. Angeal, where did you go?
Combat mode.
And again, as I said, if Genesis is such a good soldier, and I think I'm poisoned at the minute. Yeah, it's. I did not expect the dialogue to be so cringeworthy. I really am surprised. This is the first time I've really ever sat down and played this. And the dialogue. You think that is their headquarters? So you want like that may be their base of operations in the local area. That may well be their base of. We should check it out. We should investigate. Most likely. I'm currently on a cliff overlooking the fact. Yeah, you should say I'm currently scouting out the area. A frontal attack is advisable. We should go in from above. And we should go in from above. We shall go in from above. does not quite make sense. Shall's past tense. We should go in from above, suggesting come to the cliff top immediately. Rendezvous at the cliff top. Because these guys are military, so you expect something like rendezvous at the cliff top. That's rendezvous. You want him rendezvous at the cliff top immediately. You want a sort of military press. Yeah, I really am surprised for a final game with. I see something again. Why can't we pick that up? What's the? Wait, that's a bug. MP 131 of 93. Look, my MP is exceeding my current maximum according to that. Is that because I've got some power up on or something? This game is, yeah, 131 of 93.
Activating combat mode.
Oh, I need to sort out my poison. I think they're pick-up items, but I can't pick them up at the minute. Those highlighted areas.
Conflict resolved.
Yeah, poisoned item. Use. I've only got one. Oh, that's right. I didn't equip the bulletproof vest. Mag plus 5. That's equipped. Magic. Unless some of the abilities do something. So do I take down increased vitality or... Actually HP plus 10. So what's the vitality stat actually do? What does the manual say? So I can up HP or I can up vitality. It's definitely one of those last all full colour manuals that you used to get. How vitality decreases physical damage received.
Activating combat mode.
Out of the way! Hi!
Modulating phase.
Yeah!
Oops-a-daisy. I got taken out by that. I'll just bring up the load screen. Okay, I think that's actually a good place to end it, as it's now midnight here in the United Kingdom, and that's been an hour and I think nearly 2 hours. Over 2 hours? 2 hours 30. Okay, that's longer than... So thanks for all the likes, guys. Very much appreciated. That has been Final Fantasy Crisis Core. So yeah, it's not a bad game. I mean, I think it's still available. I think it might be available digitally, as on top of being pretty common physically. Combat's not bad. It's quite good fun, but yeah, I wouldn't really. I can't. And the music's very good. Graphics is very good. It's just the gameplay's good fun. Although it's hampered by the story, and I think the environment's a little. But yeah, that story is a bit laughable in places. Yeah, that one just took me out really quickly as well, almost at full health. So never mind. But I think that's a good place. I was going to end it anyway around that. So that's probably a good place for me to get bumped off, so to speak. But yeah, that was Final Fantasy Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. It's not a bad game, but yeah, and if you certainly want to pick up cheap, but I certainly wasn't digging that story. The dialogue was terrible in places. It generally didn't feel, it didn't feel to the standard I would expect for Final Fantasy VII, for the Final Fantasy series. It just felt a bit all over the place in places. But yeah, I'm going to wrap up there. That's okay. You suggested you wanted to stream. It's nice to actually give this a whirl. It's nice to actually see what it's like. I certainly don't think I'll be playing this anytime soon. I'm not... I can't say I was too enamoured with it, but it's certainly nice to actually see what it was like. But yeah, that has been Final Fantasy XII Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. I keep saying, oh god, I keep getting tongue twisted these days. Sign of old age, I suspect. Not that I'm that old, but yeah, not far off. Not too far off middle age now. So I know it's a big... I think it's quite a big game. I think there's a lot to unlock in it, but story-wise, it's certainly not what I'd call your grade A story. But it's been fun watching it with you guys. Thanks for joining. Very much appreciate you all being here. Share, 8-Bit Boy, Nico. We had, was it Will as well earlier? So I think we've had a lot of people like the stream. Thank you very much for the likes, guys. Very much appreciated. Glad to see you've all enjoyed this. I'm going to wrap it up here. So, as your host of Randomised Gaming, I have been Random Gamer Riven. I will wish you a good night, a good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We will be doing another Fight Night stream tomorrow, as always. I'm not sure what we'll be doing on Fight Night. I'll have to dig something up. Yeah, I have actually got the PS3 out, so dare we do something on the PS3 perhaps, although I don't think, let me just check. I don't think I've got too much on the PS3 that we don't already have on the 360, but... Yeah, so I'm not quite sure what I do. Could maybe do Tekken something. I don't want to do Street Fighter X Tekken, but I'm going to wrap up there. So thank you all, everyone. There will definitely be a Fight Night tomorrow. And yes, I will see you guys. I don't know if you'll be on tomorrow, but have a good weekend if you're not on tomorrow. And I will be back tomorrow. I was debating whether to do a Mortal Kombat crowd play stream, but I might give that a break and do that another time. But night, everyone. I will see you all in tomorrow's Fight Night stream if you're on. If not, have a good weekend. And that's it from me, Random Gamer Riven. I hope you've enjoyed this stream of Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII from Square. Published and developed by Square Enix and released in 2007, or first released in 2007, I should say. Anyway, hope you have a good evening. Hope you've enjoyed this look at the PSP version. Better switch it off before my PSP runs out of power. Okay, night everyone.